I want you to picture a scenario. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You're in a conference room with the VP of sales, or maybe the head of marketing.
Oh, I know this room.
You know this room. You've got your slide deck up, and you are, I don't know, 5 minutes into explaining why the organization needs to invest more in data governance.
Right.
You're hitting all the right notes, technically. You're talking metadata repositories, lineage, maybe some stewardship protocols.
The classics.
The classics, exactly.
Yeah.
The foundational stuff. But then you look up, and you see it.
Yep.
It's not just boredom. It's a specific kind of calculation happening behind their eyes. They aren't hearing safety or efficiency. They're hearing obstacles.
They're hearing slow. They're calculating how much slower their team is going to move if they actually listen to you.
That is the moment. That's when you lose the budget.
It's so painful because you know you're right, technically speaking, but you are absolutely losing the room emotionally.
And that disconnect is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into a concept called the Data Governance Analogy Toolkit. Specifically, we're looking at materials from the DG specialist, that's DG for data governance, who argues that our biggest problem isn't the data itself, it's our marketing.
I really, really enjoyed this research because it tackles that universal struggle of the data professional, which is just translation.
Right.
How do you take these abstract, invisible, kind of scary concepts and make them physical? How do you make a non-technical stakeholder feel the risk in their gut?
And the answer apparently lies in a stack of 54 wooden blocks. Today, we are talking about the Jenga doctrine.
We are, and honestly, it is the most perfect, stressful metaphor for enterprise data architecture I have ever come across.
Before we start pulling blocks and watching everything crash, let's set the stage. Why do we even need an analogy toolkit? Why can't we just explain the technical reality? I mean, these are smart business leaders.
They are smart, but they're focused on completely different metrics. The source material makes a really critical point here. The goal of this toolkit isn't just to explain what you do. The goal is to sensitize the business.
Sensitize. That's an interesting word choice. It sounds almost medical.
It does, doesn't it? But think about it. If I say schema drift, that's a concept. It's abstract.
Right.
If I say collapse, that's a physical event. You flinch when you hear a tower crash. The analogy is designed to bridge that gap between, technical annoyance and business catastrophe.
So we're moving away from definitions and towards visceral feelings.
Precisely. We need to stop acting like textbook authors and start acting like structural engineers.
Okay, let's build a tower then. In this analogy, we aren't just playing a game on a coffee table. What are we looking at when we see that stack of blocks?
So visualize the tower. In the Jenga doctrine, that whole tower represents your organization's entire data ecosystem, the whole architecture.
Everything.
Everything. Your cloud storage, your on-prem servers, your legacy mainframes from the 90s, your modern SaaS apps. It is the structure that holds the business up.
So it's the organization itself, basically.
Right. And it's standing there. It looks solid. But as we know, a Jenga tower is made of individual pieces, and those are the blocks.
And in our world, the blocks are.
The blocks are the data assets. So a block could be a customer table. It could be a specific field like home address. It could be a transformation process or an API collection. The tower is built out of thousands of these individual blocks stacked on top of each other.
I like this because it also implies that not all blocks are created equal. In the game, you have those loose ones on the side that don't matter much.
Yeah, the wiggly ones.
And then you have that one central block at the bottom that is holding up 10 layers.
That is a perfect observation. And that is exactly how data works. You have load-bearing data, your master data, your core reference codes. If you pull those, the whole thing comes down.
And then you have the decorative blocks at the top, like a temporary marketing report.
Exactly.
So we have the tower, it's built, it's standing. In a perfect world, nobody touches it, and it stands forever. But we don't work in a museum.
No, we work in a business. And businesses need to move. This is where the game mechanics come in. The source material focuses so heavily on the act of pulling a block.
This is the core action. In the game, you pull a block to keep play going or, to win your turn.
Right. Now, map that onto a Tuesday in the office. Let's say you have a sales manager. He's looking at his CRM and he decides, you know what? I don't like scrolling through this drop-down menu for customer region. It slows my team down.
Okay.
I'm going to change this field to a free text box so they can just type whatever they want.
He's pulling a block.
He is pulling a block.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is he trying to destroy the company? Is he a villain?
No, of course not. He's trying to be efficient. He's trying to win his turn. He wants his team to close deals faster.
Exactly. To him, it feels like a small, isolated action. He thinks, I'm just moving this one little wooden piece. The tower is huge. This one piece doesn't matter.
But he doesn't see the physics.
He doesn't see the physics. And this brings us to the focus point of this deep dive. Keep pulling out blocks with no plan.
With no plan. That's the key phrase right there.
In a real game of Jenga, you take turns. You watch what the other person does. But in a large enterprise, it's simultaneous multiplayer Jenga.
Oh, that's a terrifying image.
It is. You have marketing pulling a block, IT pulling a block, HR swapping a block out, all at the same time, usually without talking to each other.
And they're all blindfolded to what the other players are doing.
Totally. So back to our sales manager. He changes the region field to free text. He got his block out. He's happy. The tower didn't fall on his desk.
The game continues for him.
But unbeknownst to him, that region block was load-bearing for the finance department. Their automated tax software looks for a specific code, say, NY, for New York.
Right.
It doesn't know what to do when a salesperson types in the Big Apple or just New York City.
So the tax calculation just fails.
It fails. Or worse, it calculates zero tax because it doesn't recognize the input. Now suddenly you have a regulatory compliance issue. You have a fine coming your way. The tower is wobbling.
I want to pause on the wobble. Because in the game, that's the most stressful part. You touch a block, and the whole structure shudders. It doesn't fall, but you know it's compromised.
That is your warning sign. In the data world, the wobble is the erosion of trust. It's when the CEO gets two reports, one from sales, one from finance, and the revenue numbers don't match.
I have been in that meeting. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees instantly.
That is a wobble. The structure is still standing, the servers are on, the emails are working, but the integrity is gone. And what happens next?
People stop trusting the tower.
And they start building their own little towers on the side.
The dreaded Excel hell. Everyone has their own offline spreadsheet because they don't trust the central data.
Which just weakens the main tower even further because now nobody is maintaining the core blocks. They're just ignoring them.
Yeah.
And eventually, gravity takes over. The collapse.
In the game, it's loud, it's messy. You laugh about it, you rebuild.
Yeah.
But in business, a collapse is not funny.
No. A collapse in this analogy is a major data breach because someone pulled a security protocol block to make a login easier. It's a multi-million-dollar failed migration project. Or it's a class action lawsuit because you mishandled customer data.
It's the end of the game.
It's the end of the game. And usually the people who pulled the blocks are shocked. They say, I didn't touch the foundation, I just changed a form field.
They didn't realize they were part of a connected system.
And that is the tragedy of ungoverned data. It's a failure of connectivity.
So this leads us naturally to the solution. If the tower is the org and pulling blocks is ungoverned change, what is data governance? Because I think the instinct and the reason people hate us is they think governance means glue.
Yes, the super glue approach.
I will glue these blocks together so nobody can ever move them again.
And if you do that, you are technically safe. The tower will never, ever fall.
But you can't play the game.
You can't play. The business grinds to a halt. If you lock down data so tightly that nobody can access it, nobody can innovate, nobody can update a process, you've killed the business. You preserved the structure, but you've lost the purpose.
This is such a critical distinction. The source material emphasizes that governance isn't about stopping movement, it's about keeping balance and integrity intact.
Exactly. Think of the data governor not as the person with the glue gun, but as the structural engineer.
Right.
Or the person who, understands the physics of the tower.
So when the sales manager comes to you and says, I want to pull this block, you don't just say no.
You say, okay, let's look at the physics. You say, if you pull this block, the finance dashboard falls down. So before you pull it, we need to put a support strut over here, or we need to update the finance system to handle the change.
That is such a different conversation. It's not you aren't allowed, it's here is the cost of doing that safely.
It shifts the entire narrative from control to sustainability. It allows the game to continue. It allows the business to be agile, but without the risk of the whole thing coming down on a Friday afternoon.
It also makes the no, when you have to say it, acceptable. If you say no because of policy, people ignore you. If you say no because the tower will fall, people listen.
It creates a shared reality, and that's what this whole toolkit concept is all about. It's about giving you a visual language.
Okay, let's talk about application, because we promised a masterclass in communication. How do our listeners actually use this? I mean, do they literally bring a Jenga set to a board meeting.
You know, I've seen it done. It is memorable.
Mhm.
But more practically, you just use the imagery. The source material explicitly suggests using this on the job.
So, slide decks.
Absolutely. Next time you have a steering committee meeting or you're asking for budget for a data catalog, put a picture of a Jenga tower on the screen.
And you say,
We are planning a major digital transformation. That is like pulling these 10 blocks out of the bottom of the tower to replace them with new ones. If we don't have a plan, if we don't have governance, we create a massive risk of collapse.
it changes the vocabulary immediately. You're not asking for money for metadata. You're asking for money for structural integrity.
It makes the risk tangible. And it helps with that sensitizing mission we talked about. You want everyone in the organization to look at data and realize, if I mess with this, it might have a consequence somewhere else.
It builds empathy, which is a weird thing to say about data, but it's true. It forces the marketing team to care about what the finance team needs.
Because they share the same tower. If finance goes down, the whole company goes down, and marketing loses their budget too. We are all on the same table.
Now, I want to throw a curveball at you. Or maybe I want to stack a really heavy block on top of the tower.
I think I know where you're going with this.
In Jenga, the tower falls for two reasons. One is a weak, bottom too many holes. But the other reason is that the top just gets too heavy.
Yes. You keep stacking and stacking without reinforcing the base.
Right now in the industry, everyone is obsessed with stacking. We're talking generative AI, large language models, real-time predictive analytics. These are heavy, complex, expensive blocks.
They are incredibly heavy, and this is the provocation for our listeners today. We see so many organizations rushing to pile these AI blocks on top of their tower because it's shiny and it's what the board wants to see.
What?
But if your foundation is Swiss cheese, if you have poor data quality, no lineage, no clear definitions, what happens when you put a massive AI model on top of that?
The tower collapses. Or, arguably worse, the tower stands, but the AI starts hallucinating because it's reading bad blocks.
Exactly. You are building a skyscraper on a swamp. This Jenga analogy is so critical for the AI era because it forces a reality check. You want the cool stuff on top. You have to earn it by stabilizing the bottom.
You have to earn the top of the tower. I like
You
that.
can only stack as high as your foundation allows. That is just the physics of data.
For the listeners who are sitting there nodding their heads thinking, I need this, I need to show this to my boss, where do they go? We mentioned the DG specialist earlier.
Yes, the source material is fantastic for this.
Yeah.
If you want to dive deeper into the toolkit and see how this applies to other scenarios like, say, regulatory compliance or data ethics, you should check out their resources.
And where can they find those?
You can visit www.dgspecialist.com/podcast. There's a lot of depth there that we, just couldn't cover in 20 minutes.
And for the visual learners.
Yeah.
Because this is a very visual analogy.
Definitely check out the YouTube channel at DG Specialist. Seeing the diagrams of the Tower of Risk really helps cement the concept. It gives you the slides you need to build your own deck.
And that's the goal, right? It's not just about us understanding it. It's about us being able to sell it.
It's about solving real problems. That's what I love about this approach. It's not theory. It's a communication strategy for survival.
It turns the data governor from a librarian into a safety inspector.
Or a game master.
A game master. I like that. So, let's wrap this up. If you had to summarize the Jenga doctrine into a single elevator, pitch something our listener can say to that VP of sales in the coffee room. What is it?
I would say this. The tower is our business. The blocks are our data. Governance isn't the glue that stops us from playing. Governance is the plan that keeps the tower standing while we play to win.
Simple, visual, effective.
And it reminds us that winning in data isn't about beating an opponent. It's about sustainability.
That's a great final point. In Jenga, usually someone eventually loses.
Yeah.
The tower falls. But in our world...
In our world, the goal is infinite Jenga. We want to keep building, changing, and growing forever without ever letting it fall.
The game that never ends.
That's the dream.
Well, there you have it. The Jenga doctrine. Something to think about the next time you're tempted to make a quick change to a production database.
Check the physics first.
Check the physics.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive. Go keep those towers standing.
See you next time.